Hello, everyone, and welcome to LDM Radio Sports Talk, the show that talks about sports and other topics relatable to sports fans. Joining me this week in New Jersey is Anthony Lopez.
What's going on, Alfonso? How are you?
All right. Feeling good. We're starting a little late today because we had a bit of technical difficulties, so we're going to have a bit of a shorter show, but tons of fun nonetheless. So Anthony, we are in NBA Finals country, where the Milwaukee Bucks last night they ended up tying the series with the Phoenix Suns at 2. Have you been able to catch any of the series?
Just a couple of glimpses and glabs. It's pretty exciting. I mean, is there anybody that? When was the last time the Suns even won? Let's go to that. I mean, how many years has it been since the Suns have won a championship, as well as the Bucks?
The Suns haven't won in their 53-year history, and the Milwaukee Bucks haven't won since 1971.
Yeah, so, I mean, the way I look at it is, I mean, am I rooting for anybody? No. I'd like the Suns to win to finally get something under their belt like that. They're going through a really tough series, for both teams. So, I mean, whoever gets it definitely sure deserves it, but it would be very, very nice to see the Suns finally pull off an NBA championship.
Yeah, I think this NBA Finals is actually rejuvenating my love for basketball just in general. Usually I'm just like a Knicks fan, and then when the Knicks are done, like I completely drop the sport altogether, which is more often than not being a Knicks fan, because they throughout the years they've hardly even made the playoffs, let alone have any kind of deep playoff runs. But this one, like there's no real clear-cut predictable winner. There's no this wasn't like a predetermined matchup in the beginning of the season, or any kind of like superstar laden. Yeah, like there are superstars here, but this is like a series where they're like the superstars are being born. This is not something that was like a predetermined thing, or like you have your Devin Booker on one side, who's been shooting. He's had a couple of here and there games, but overall, in this finals, he actually has the record now for most points from somebody who's in their first postseason. So he's he's just arrived. Like a lot of people who didn't know who Devin Booker was before this playoff season, now they've everybody know, like he's going to be a household name basically by the time this is over. And then you have your Chris Paul, who the 16-year veteran, the gritty one, the one that went through always the bridesmaid, never the bride, and now he's in his NBA Finals debut and trying to get that elusive championship, and trying to get it in different ways than what his other cohorts have been, how they've been able to do it, instead of like just teaming up. He's trying to he tried to just piece it together, and I wouldn't say he's been totally relieved of not having like the team up factor, but he's because like there was when he was with the Rockets, like they had like James Harden and a couple other pieces there, but now like he basically signed on with the Phoenix Suns, who they were at the bottom of the league 2 years ago, and he signs on with them like since they had like the first round picks, and like they had they were heading in the right direction, and now they've just absolutely taken off and exploded. So it's been fantastic to see. And then DeAndre Ayton, who's the center for the Phoenix Suns, #1 pick, and he's just like he hasn't even fully developed into the basketball player that he's going to be, but he's already he's pulling down doubles, and he's just like making a super impact, and you could tell that he's just going to be a superstar in the next couple of years. And it's fantastic to see on the Phoenix Sun end. And then when you go to the Milwaukee Bucks, you have the two-time NBA MVP Giannis. Let me Antetokounmpo. So actually, I put that separated out, trying to finally. I always like kind of stay away from the last name, and I just say Giannis throughout the show. So I actually wanted to start getting that because at this point it should be a household name because he's basically he's doing he's pulling down double doubles and he's going over 40 points the past couple games, and last night seemed like he just kind of took a step back and was more of a facilitator role because Chris Middleton, who's the other superstar for the Milwaukee Bucks, is he's just hot and cold. Like he's either just like they have the memes on social media. He's either like a Kyle Kuzma or he's prime Michael Jordan. Like there's no in between. So last night he went off for 40 points, and Giannis was more of a facilitator at that point, and it's really cool to see how balanced these teams are, how well they match up with each other, and they're just every game is just fireworks, and you don't know what's gonna happen. Like it's like a thriller, and it's really cool to see.
That's the plus about it. You never know. I mean, these are not two huge super teams going at it where it's like, kind of know what to expect. There's a veteran of Chris Paul, and and what he's doing for the Suns right now is it's really amazing to watch, honestly.
It's absolutely it's such riveting TV. Like I enjoy watching the games, and like
exactly. Like it makes you want to watch it. It's not like watching the Warriors versus the Cavs or the Lakers, where it's just like well, we know, like, this keeps you on your seat the whole game. You know what I mean? Anything can switch at any given time. And honestly, that's why I really like this series because, like you said before, we're not used to this. We haven't had, two teams that, really have never won anything in the last 50 years. And then, it's like, boom. And look at what we got here. You know what I mean? It's a really good series, and, it's really anybody's series. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, there's really no losers in this exchange as far as the NBA goes, just because like obviously it's sad that somebody has to actually lose, but whoever ends up winning, like there's no real like clear cut like heroes versus villains or any kind of thing like that. It's just basically unless you're a fan of the Phoenix Suns or the Milwaukee Bucks, anybody who doesn't represent one of those two teams, then like you're just basically just enjoying the ride and seeing how everything goes. It's fantastic. Like this is something that like people don't even have time to like get all the merchandise and to bandwagon, like in the bars and stuff like that. Like we saw with the constant Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers, that was like 3 or 4 years in a row. It was just awful. Awful from like, just a global standpoint. I think the parity is 100% what's needed there. You can only sell on superstars for so long. And then, when you have a matchup like this, like I mentioned in the past, the superstars are still going to be superstars, and now you have more superstars adding on to it because like the stars are shining on the big stage.
Yep.
And it's fantastic. And there's I mentioned in the previous show too that nobody has won a championship on either roster. So whoever wins is gonna they're all gonna get their first championship, and it's just gonna be like an euphoric moment for whoever it is. And now it's a best of 3. So like basically whatever happened to this point, it's all been exciting and a roller coaster ride. But if you look at it, it's a best of 3 right now. Phoenix has the home court advantage. Game 5 is going to be Saturday night, and then Game 6 will be on Tuesday. So depending on if each team can win, there'll either be a new NBA champion by the time we hit the air next Thursday, or Thursday night will be Game 7.
Be interesting.
Yeah, so can't wait to see how that all unfolds, and it's just I can't stress enough how exciting it is to love basketball again, just without needing the Knicks in it, because obviously in a perfect world I'd love for the Knicks to be in there, but I mean that's not gonna happen. I mean I can only hope that would happen sometime in my lifetime, but if it didn't, it's good. It's good to see the parity, and it's good to see you don't know what's gonna happen. And, almost got to like. It almost got like the NBA just kind of almost got to the point of like uh, wrestling, like WWE or AEW, where it was just like it was predetermined. Uh, Thought it was predetermined results, and everybody's just kind of seeing how it unfolds, but you kind of know it's going to happen already, or you've seen this before. Like this is all like unprecedented times for our era, which is absolutely fantastic.
I mean, when was the last time that we saw two teams that were not supposed to be in the championship playing for, the championship? When was the last time you had two teams that you were like, wow, neither one of these teams are actually going to make it? I mean, I can't even think.
Yeah, I can't even either
Even
because
going back to
even
the early '90s with the Bulls and everything like that, like you knew they were going there.
yeah,
You knew they were going
yeah.
there. You know what I mean? And it's just, it's amazing. It's real, and it's very refreshing to watch two teams that have never won. Nobody on the roster's won, so it just makes it that much better. And watching these guys go, that they're really, really hungry for this championship. That it's just, you just get to see amazing basketball.
And you think about it because, a lot of people that I've spoken to about, basketball in general, sports in general, a lot of them say that, this is not 90s basketball, which this is not. And it's different than what it was because, it was more physical back in the 90s, but now you have people that can just shoot threes or just shoot from anywhere on the floor, like mid
You know
range,
what? You know what?
close.
Though, if you go back to that, in the early '90s like that, yes, it was more physical. Now is more of a finesse game. But if you had the physicality of the '90s basketball, you would not so much have the finesse game that there is today.
That,
And this will go back to the whole, who's better, LeBron or MJ. I'm not even going to touch that discussion because we could talk about that for 2 hours. I mean,
right.
all the legends right now that already played, that are, in the NBA Hall of Fame, they already say it's Jordan, plain and simple. But the physicality, I mean, do you really think that, I don't know number wise, I'm not going to go into numbers, but you take somebody like Steph Curry and then you got somebody like Reggie Miller.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you had that, but let me tell you something. Reggie was, he was good. Like he was able to play with that physicality and still make threes. Now, is that something Curry can do? Or is he able to play under the the craziness of someone constantly being in your face, knocking into you, fouling you, this, that, and the other thing? I mean, that to me, that's '90s basketball, and that's the basketball I miss. But I mean, again, that's just my opinion.
And I think moving on top of that, like the 90s basketball was an evolution basically from the 80s and the 70s basketball that they knew at the time. And I think moving forward, what we've seen a lot more of instead of, having to drive to the hoop and then having to pay the penalty and all that, there are aspects of the game that still lean toward that way. But mostly, we've seen the game evolve into more 3-point shots. We've seen more 3-point shots than we've ever seen before. And we've seen players that have, like position wise that have been able to do it. There's some centers that can shoot threes. There's a lot of stretch fours, power forwards that are able to knock down 3-pointers, shooting. Small forwards, shooting guards, obviously, and point guards. Those have always been the constants with it. But now it's like anybody almost on the floor can shoot a 3-pointer, and then like people shooting from the logos, people shooting from half mid court. It's like, well, how do you defend that? Like if you're just walking in from half court and then you're just shooting up a shot and it's a 3-pointer, it's just like that. There's been just so many shots coming from all over the place. That's almost like the answer to the '90s basketball. Before, even if you take out the physicality, and even if it was more physical, you still have these guys shooting from all over the place on the court. So
If
it's
you were to take a team, they would not be able to withstand like a '95, the '95 Bulls, like just straight taking it to the hole. They wouldn't know how to defend it, like and it's not the basketball of today when someone drives to the hole and they just get tapped, they fall on the ground. Like
yeah,
that's not '90s basketball. '90s basketball, you were elbowing people and they were still dunking on you. Like they weren't trying to draw the foul, yes, but like they weren't laying on the floor like like some of these guys are. I'm not even going to name names. I'm sure you guys can figure this out. Just like it's changed. The game has changed a lot, and again, it's just a finesse game and shooting threes. Me personally, give me a nice little tight defense, and drive into the hole, and let's see if he can make that reverse layup, or that dunk over two guys. To me, that's
Yeah.
that's more fun to watch. But
Yeah.
again, that's just my opinion.
And yeah, no, I agree with you to a certain extent, but then we also, basically it's almost like, if you put it in a football term, like in the 90s, they basically like stacked the box, so that your running game wasn't good and you had to come over the top. Now, like, it's just a super aerial passing attack where everybody's just shooting threes from all over the place and shooting, mid ranges. And, it's basically like you don't even need that little middle area, or it even opens up the middle if you can shoot from anywhere on the court, and your perimeter defenders, you really can't check them because they're not even getting to that point. They're just shooting, over that. It's just it's been amazing to watch, like how it's evolved. Like obviously it'll never be the same, and like it's just evolved, and it's not what it used to be, but it's a different aspect of awesome. That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the NHL. So we have a couple of dates. So next Wednesday is gonna be the Seattle Kraken expansion draft. What are your thoughts on this so far? Have you seen any of the movements and things going on?
You know what? Honestly, I'm loving this right now. Hockey's my sport, obviously. But just to see what Vegas did, and they went to the championship. They went to the finals. I don't say championship. They went to the finals the first year. Like, I'm really stoked to see who's going to go where, because you know what? There's a lot of cap issues. There's going to be some people that you're going to be like, well, wait a minute, how come they're not giving him a contract? Like, honestly, there's just such a buzz going on. I'm all over Twitter. I mean, I saw a couple of names that they were saying to go to Seattle, and I was just like, Anthony Duclair, I believe, was one of them. I think it's from the Coyotes. There was another big name. I don't remember who the hell it was, but it's to me, it's. I love this because now it's like, who are you saving? What are you doing? Obviously, somebody's going to have to go somewhere. I saw something that possibly Fleury was going to probably go back to Pittsburgh. So, I mean, there's just a whole bunch of good stuff happening, and that really that warms me up inside. I get all fuzzy when I hear good stuff like that.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I think this, everybody's expecting, like, the Vegas Golden Knights Part 2 to happen, and it's good. I talked about it on the show last week. The amount of moves that were made beforehand that made Vegas as good as they are is just unprecedented, with the amount of trades and the wheelings and dealings and the packages and the agreements and the agreements that went with the trades, like take this guy and then we'll trade you this guy and things like that. All of those things, which are still a factor right now, I think it's different because this year we're having a bunch of people that are just left unprotected. Like, people, like, some teams are hoping that some of the higher cap hit players are going to get taken. So basically it's like Seattle takes gives them cap relief, and that's what we're seeing this year, which is different than the Vegas year. We see in Buffalo, Jeff Skinner is going to be left unprotected, which I think he has like $9 million for like 6 years left to go. So obviously, if he's the player taken for Seattle, that would be like a huge relief for Buffalo. It wouldn't even be like, it wouldn't be a burning, so they're like hoping that, all right, take this guy, please. And Ben Bishop is they announced yesterday, Ben Bishop, the goaltender for the Dallas Stars, is going to be left unprotected. So he might be.
I know Tuukka Rask's, his contract's up.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a couple. I mean, you got David Krejci, Derek Stefan, Yandel, Zetterberg, Backus. I mean, these are some older guys, but I mean, you really got to find that mix of, old to younger guys for the mentorship. And I said this on one of the shows too about Taylor Hall. He jumped from all these spots where there was really no veteran status. He got on Buffalo, and he's doing absolutely phenomenal. So, and it really all comes down to, it's not just the players. And we saw this with Vegas too. They pretty much just got all these players, just threw them together, and it all depends on the coaching. If the coaching knows how to coach and just not put up a wall and say, this is the type of hockey that I want you to play. You really have to look at it and see how the players play, and not only the players but the coaches also have to change the way they're coaching, because if you take somebody and you just take them completely out of their game, it really could be a nightmare. And I mean, I'm just looking at the UFA list. It's crazy. Dubinsky, Dougie Hamilton, Steen, Zajac, Landeskog, Nick Foligno. I mean, they really are going to have a really, really good team if they don't sign some of these players. And it's going to be absolutely amazing. Taylor Hall, Parisi. Parisi and Ryan Suter, they just bought out of their contract. Yep. And like 6 years left out of their contract.
Yeah.
Listen, this makes me fuzzy inside. I think this is going to be awesome. Just waiting for this to come up. It's going to be, dude, it's going to be awesome. And everyone's going to be like, oh, my God, did you see who got that? And that's the type of offseason I like. If we're going to make some moves, let's go in it all or nothing. I hate when they do like, oh, this one took, a second rounder. No, let's make some moves. Let's make some big moves going around the league. And honestly, and that's what I like. That's what I like about hockey, because you know what? Every year it's anyone's game.
Absolutely.
In a nutshell.
Absolutely. So
I'm excited, man.
Yeah, me too. Because like with what Seattle does, no teams have cap space, and right now Seattle has $81.5 million worth of cap space to play with. So like their options are endless, and there are going to be some players out there, some high ticketed, high priced players they'll be able to select, or if they don't get them, if they go through with the bare minimum, they'll have some money, and like a big ticket or two free agent who wants to get paid and doesn't want to wait, they'll be able to sign with Seattle. The options are endless for them. So it'll be interesting to see how they develop there. Now, building on to your point where you're saying though that the other free agent names that are out there are going to be some free agents that once the first wave hits and like the fool's gold money, which is what a lot of people think the opening of free agency is, when like the team's just so desperate they're gonna just throw whatever at a guy just so that they can sign him in day one instead of dragging it out or risking losing the guy. Once all of that's settled, there are going to be some big names out there, and I think they're just going to sign, like little bridge deals, little like 1 or 2 year deals where you're going to get good value for somebody who's just going to wait for the market to open up when it does open up in a year or two. So, like, there's going to be a lot of interesting moves. There's going to be I think there's going to be some Toronto Maple Leaf kind of like stacking of the rosters with premium talent on the cheap.
Well, you know what, and that's the other thing too. There's so many big names out there now, which I believe that they have more now than they did when Vegas was coming into the league. I mean, the number one on the list, which we know where he's going to go. He's going to stay in Washington, is Ovechkin. I mean, the guy's an absolute monster. But, Getzlaf, I can't see him being a Duck. I think he's going to take a step back. He's going to go on a fourth line somewhere, and just to mentor people. I mean, but, we got some gas left in the tank. I mean, you got Parisi and you got Suter. Parisi, Suter, and David Krejci. I mean, I think are going to be very, very interesting players to watch. David Krejci, if I'm not mistaken, he's a center, and he does well. Krejci does well, and I mean, Parisi's a wing. He'll step in the center box. He'll step in for faceoffs, but Krejci is a great guy, and I'm a firm believer in faceoff wins. I believe that when you need a critical faceoff, it really comes in handy. But again, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of names on here, and I'm really excited to see where they're going to go.
Absolutely, I think as far as faceoffs go, I think that's a very underrated stat. I think there's too many people who don't value it enough. But I think when it comes to time of possession and like it really does make or break games, because those few seconds that you're saving from players. If players are out there for a minute at a time. And if you lose the face-off, you're killing off like 10, 20, possibly 30 seconds of that minute, that window where you have like your best players there. And I think that's where winning face-offs is so important. And I think it's a very underrated stat. And I think it's an undervalued stat when it comes to the structure of the hockey teams and how they're built. Like there's so many teams that just aren't great on faceoffs, and it really
Let's take
shows.
a look at our team, Alfonso, the Rangers.
Yeah, yeah, I
We
gotta
don't have
say the
number
Rangers
one
are
center.
definitely one of them.
Now, and when I say number one center, people think, oh, he's got to score. No, that's not. To me, that's not what a center does. What a center does is he's the leader of the ice at that point. Okay,
Yep.
and what he's going to do is he's going to set plays up. That's what he does. He sets plays up. He makes sure people are in the right spots, and he lets the wingers go to work. So his main thing is winning the faceoff back and setting people up. To me, I like to think of a center as a playmaker. All right. And honestly, like that's what the Rangers struggle with. And we've been struggling like that for a long time. And I really honestly think that's one of our biggest problems. We need to go after a center and someone that's going to take control of the puck and work into the zone and take control of the zone, make space. And I'm going to be honest with you, I hate Sidney Crosby, but that's why he's such a good player. Because when he takes the puck, he travels with the puck and he makes room. He makes room and he draws two people to him. He's got a great eye and he passes well. That's what makes Sidney Crosby one of the greatest players to ever play the game. And just his mindset of playing hockey and looking at things that are going to happen 3 and 4, passes after what he does, it just makes him incredible. I mean, I hate the guy because he's such a great player, but I love to have him on the Rangers. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but absolutely. But that's what the Rangers are missing. We need a strong center that has confidence, and that's what we lack right now.
And there is the Sidney Crosby, the Alex Kopitar from the Los Angeles Kings, and the Patrice Bergeron from the Boston Bruins. There are those types of centers that are just, they can do it all. They play good defensively. They're perennial Selke Trophy finalists, and while also providing offense, winning faceoffs and things like that. Basically, like 5-tool players. But there's also the aspect of just getting a lower level center that you can get, somebody who could just win faceoffs in the defensive zone and then, change on the benches and things like that, or somebody that you could stack with two centers and, one guy wins the faceoff and, like just those different strategic things.
I'm not saying you have to go out and, spend $8-9 million.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to find that player that's hungry and is going to put in the work, take a couple hundred faceoffs every single, day of practice, and just control the game, or at least try and have a good confidence. And I really honestly think that's what a lot of players do lack. I mean, it sounds crazy because they're professionals, but you can see when someone has that confidence level that when it finally comes and it's just like, boom, they just take off and you see it and they start handling the puck. They stop overthinking. And I think that's really what makes a good center.
Absolutely. And then just to add on to like the lower level aspect is, like the Rangers, to use them as an example, years ago, like around the 2012 range when they had Ryan Callahan and Brian Boyle, they were a good faceoff team back then, and they had those two guys, that were able to, win faceoffs more times than not. And since losing those players, they really haven't had like those stalwart, like win a faceoff or even like, the penalty kill, like the reliable ones to, do well there. It just
like after taking an icing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
After you take an icing with 3 minutes left in the game, you're up by 1. I mean, do you really want to lose a faceoff? And honestly, I think Brian Boyle was awesome. And if you watch Brian Boyle, he grabbed the stick, from one end to the other, and he got low. He got the leverage.
Right.
And I mean, it's just you don't see many centermen take faceoffs the way Brian Boyle did. But again, like you said, we were a better faceoff team back then, and that's to me is what we're lacking. I think that plays a huge part. It's an underrated stat, like you said, and I think if we can win the puck, in the zone, an important it will create a lot more chances for us rather than just dump and chase, trying to bring it up the middle, and you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Even tough to do. And to add on to the icing point, if you're down 1 and you're just a horrible faceoff team, then the opposing team could just win the faceoff and just keep throwing icings, because if you're not going to win the faceoff, they're just going to keep winning it anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's no,
Just going to control
like,
the zone. That's
yeah,
all it is.
there's no strategic leverage if, if you're just going to keep icing it, because we're going to keep getting it back, so it doesn't matter anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it hurts the team if you're not able to win that faceoff battle and be able to gain possession and try to get something going.
Well, I'm telling you this. I mean, I'm excited to see what's going on, but I'm even more excited to start a perfect 82 game season. I mean, I think we need that. I think the fans need that. I think the players need that. And it's just an amazing time. Hockey season is just. I mean, honestly, that's really the only sport that I actually could say I'm going to sit down and say, you know what, I'm not moving off this couch. Basketball, I'll flip through the channels. Oh, it's on. Hey, how's it going? Great. Okay. And I just keep it moving. I do the same thing with baseball. But hockey, it just, I'm glued to the seat. I watch every game. Summertime, I watch games that are going on, across seas, just to keep the hockey going. But I'm excited. There's going to be some good stuff coming up. And I'm excited to see who's going to go where, who's going to land where. I believe somebody went to, I believe it was Duncan Keith is going to Edmonton.
Yes.
To be close to the family, which is, I think that's going to be huge. I mean, Duncan Keith is on the older side, but Duncan Keith still puts up certain type of minutes. And I believe he's going to be a good mentor to Darnell Nurse on Ottawa. I think that's going to be huge. And you know what? With all these players that are going to come out there, I mean, I really wouldn't mind seeing like a Nick Foligno go over there to help out McDavid a little bit. I know it sounds a little crazy.
Yeah.
But Foligno's a dangerous player. I mean, when you play around somebody like the caliber of Crosby or McDavid, I mean, let's look at Chris Kunitz. Chris Kunitz was absolutely terrible. I'll argue that any day of the week. But when you play with the best player in the world, all you have to do is keep your stick down and you're going to score goals.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's exactly.
So when you put somebody like a player with the caliber of Nick Foligno, on the side of McDavid, I mean, it could be a dangerous thing. Even Parise, I mean, Derek Stepan, I mean, all these guys are able to play the game. And then when you just play the game with somebody of that caliber like McDavid, oh man, I get warm and fuzzy inside. It's just amazing to watching him carry the puck. I believe it, to me, the best puck carriers in the league are McDavid and McKinnon. And I mean, I don't know, we're going years back, but Kovalchuk. The puck that never stopped.
Right.
Like it was just, and the leg movement, and it's really an amazing thing to watch. I mean, people can carry the puck, but the way they do it, it's interesting.
Absolutely.
It really is.
And then there's going to be some free agents right now that are 34, 35 years old around there, and they're going to want to try to push for the championship instead of maybe just going for the big money, which is not going to be there anyway, because a lot of the teams are going to be strapped anyway. So they might just be like, you know what, we'll just run for the championship, sign a 1 or 2 year deal, and then maybe a Nick Foligno will sign on the cheap with the Oilers just to try to win and things like that. So it's very plausible that these kind of moves are going to be made. It's going to be interesting to see how that all unfolds.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. We're going to see the depth that these teams are going to be able to get, and hopefully, I mean, I'm a fair guy. I don't want super teams in the NHL like they do in basketball. I want everybody to say, you know what, anybody's got a good shot to win the Stanley Cup. So I want a good balance. I'm hoping for a good balance on everybody, where everybody's a contender at that point in time, and we just have good hockey for up until May, June. You know what I mean? Like just really good hockey.
Absolutely.
So that's really all that matters to me right now is just watching some good hockey. Players stay healthy, staying safe during this pandemic, and just getting back here and playing a game that we all love to watch.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. All right, so that'll do it for our show this week. Thank you very much, Anthony, for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll see you next week. LDM Radio Sports Talk.
Bye.